When I was coming up, it was cool to be ignorant. It was cool to be dumb. It was cool to be somebody who just did not know. Now I'm saying. It was cool not to have a vocabulary. As a matter of fact, I'm still seeing this today. I'll be honest with you. It's not just in my day, which was like a decade ago, but I still see this today, especially when it comes to hip hop culture, rap culture, whatever you may call it. That's become like the mainstream culture, right? And I'm proud of my people for getting to a place where we could create something that the entire world gravitates to. However, I'm disappointed in how we are carrying it out and also how we are putting our stamp of approval on ignorance. Now, look, I was one of the problem. If not, I was the definition of the problem. I was a kid who was raised up in a real good household, right? Moved from overseas, from Africa. So I saw the juxtaposition. I saw the difference between that environment and this environment. I knew there was opportunity here. I knew there was so much that I could gain here. And yet I cared more about social acceptance. I cared more about being validated by my peers. I cared more about being seen as a somebody than I did about being whatever it was that I could have truly been and now stepping into, of course. And so I became a part of the problem. I became ignorant. I stopped doing the things that were closest to heart for me. I stopped acting, being in theater. I stopped writing stories. I stopped doing all of it, right? I stopped pursuing intellectual pursuits. I let school go by the wayside. Not saying that school is the only way, if even the main way towards, developing yourself as an individual, but I dropped all that consciously and intentionally in order for me to pick up smoking dope and selling dope. Let's be real about it. And rap music, right? Because I started also producing rap music. I started writing my own music and performing that music, which is still something that is deeply ingrained in me that I love, but I no longer use it in service of creating this identity for myself that other people would see as cool, as in, as hip. I know we don't use them words anymore. Now they say it's lit. You know what I mean? Demon time, whatever the heck people are on nowadays. But nevertheless, I realized at about 19, when I finally left that lifestyle, that I had dumbed myself down in order to fit that narrative. I literally had gone out of my way to become this person that was seen by other people as lit, as cool, as one of the popular kids. And popular meant nothing more than, people were keeping their attention on me for whatever given reason. Now, when I look at it in hindsight, I know they were keeping their eyes on me for a very specific reason. It's because they couldn't trust me. It's because I was on one. It's because, I was deemed as dangerous. And so that was exciting for them. But nevertheless, I was still a part of the problem. And many of us fall into this very same trap. Many of us were raised in this culture. We were raised on this music, and we saturated our subconscious minds with these sorts of messages. I was raised in a time I believe was the quote unquote golden era of what they call gangster rap. We had 50 Cent, we had uh, Fat Joe. People forget Fat Joe was a they don't know. They just think lean back, lean back. Fat Joe was on some stuff. We're listening to Snoop. We're listening to what's that? Ludacris, right? Nelly. I know some of them have more poppy sounds, etc. But the subject matter that was being discussed was nothing more than ignorance. And this isn't me trying to put no shame on these dudes' game. This isn't me trying to take food off their plate or whatever you may think. Instead, I'm just pointing out a reality that we were listening to music, the TIs, the Jeezys, whoever it was, we were listening to music that gave us a message or repeated and perpetuated a message of ignorance. And so we believed it was cool to be ignorant. And I remember when I was kind of stepping into adulthood, 19, 20 years old, and I heard these stories of like kids who would graduate college, kids in the hood, kids in, certain lower income environments, etc. They would graduate from college and have few people celebrating them, maybe mama, auntie, whatever it was. But then you have somebody come out of jail and they're having these big old bashes, big parties. The whole time they were in jail, they're talking about free whoever it is. Free little Pookie head, right? Free little Pookie head for 10 years straight. Meanwhile, their son is in college right now, and they're not talking about, I can't wait till he graduates. I'm so proud of him, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So that even shows in this culture where we have a value system that is warped. We have a backwards value system. And this isn't a slight on race. This is about culture, right? It's not about race. It's about culture, because you have people who look just like us who do not celebrate that culture. However, We have put this culture on a pedestal. And I mean, we as in individuals like myself who wanted to be accepted by, the general population. I wanted to be accepted by people who look like me and those who didn't look like me. I wanted to be seen as a somebody. I wanted that external validation in order to let me know that I was enough. And so what did I do in those situations, circumstances? And, pretty much a big chunk of my childhood is I pretended to be something I wasn't. I lived an inauthentic life, and that led me to losing time. That led me to losing potential moments that I could have had to develop myself into the greatest version of myself, right? Because I was so busy pursuing everybody else's attention, I forgot to give myself my very own. And this is the root problem of it all. Yes, there is obviously the external aspects of it, which is the type of culture that we then, kind of put our stamp on is, we put our stamp on violence towards one another. We put our stamp on, selling and using drugs. We put our stamp on promiscuity. We put our stamp on, a whole array of cultural elements that do nothing but take away from us, but do nothing but destroy us as a people. But beyond all of that is what it means for the individual who never develops, who stays in that perpetual state of adolescence. We literally have grown children. We have an entire generation of grown children who don't know how to process emotion, who don't know how to logically and rationally move through life. And that is the biggest problem because it starts at the individual level. And so we have these individuals now becoming parents and raising children with the very same mentalities. And there is a repetition, a perpetuation of this generational curse. I'm going to call it exactly what it is. It is a curse that we put upon ourselves. Nobody else is doing it to us at this point in time. We are perpetuating this internalized ideology. And yes, there's a culture that's going to push it. That culture is doing nothing more, or a society that's going to push this. That society is going to push the narrative because it keeps us in this consumerist mindset. That's really what that's about. We think it's about, Illuminati, this, that. No, it's people who are trying to make a profit off of any means necessary. They will use whatever. If we were no longer into the culture, no longer perpetuating that culture, and we wanted something better, marketers and advertisers would sell us something different. It's like when people started demanding healthier food, the marketers started finding ways to create quote unquote healthier food, right? Now they still want you addicted to their product. They still want you, using their product all the time, of course. However, as soon as we change our demand, then the supply chain will change inevitably. And this happens every single time. Whatever it is that we switch behavior wise, they switch too. So if we want Louis Vuitton or Versace and Gucci, then that's what they're gonna make. They're gonna make designer brands that we can buy into. If what we care about is Hennessy more than water, then they're gonna sell Hennessy by the boatload, and they're gonna put that premium price on Hennessy. When we give our lives to a lifestyle that is degenerate, that is destructive and toxic, then that's exactly what's going to be sold right back to us because we've opted in, we've bought into that. So it is a cyclical process. It's not just they did this to us, they did this, he did this to me, she did this to me, right? We can take that stance, but in order for us to truly step back into a place of power, we have to see ourselves in the equation. Just like I realized that I was the problem, I also simultaneously realized that I could be the solution to that problem by becoming somebody different, by becoming who I was truly meant to be, becoming me. It's not somebody different as far as like this other character, but instead it's becoming who I truly was, being authentic to me, the way in which my mind operates, the way in which I have aptitudes and propensities and skills and gifts and talents and things that I care about. I started realizing that, okay, I love music, but what I really love most at the core is writing. And so now I write books, I write screenplays, right? I put this sort of content out. I still create music, but it's very different at this level, right? I know that I'm a creator. I know that I am an orator. I know that I'm a writer, but I no longer use those things in order to have others validate me, in order for people to see me as a somebody. And so I don't use it in a destructive form. Very same gift, but used for a completely different means, right? I'm not using it in order to have you, whoever you may be, to see me as quote unquote cool. I'm not willing to buy into the ignorant narrative anymore. I'm not willing to. I refuse. Absolutely not. And I believe that the only way that we can truly live the lives that we desire, right? The fulfilled life, the successful life, whatever that means for you, is to let go of this need, this perpetual need to have other people validate our existence. There's no other way around it. So long as we care more about what other people believe or see, or whether or not they see us as worthy of their attention, whether good, bad, or indifferent, as long as we care more about that than our own perception, we will suffer as a people. And I mean as a people, as in an entire species, right? I'm not just again saying race or whatever it may be. I'm saying all of us will continue to suffer, and we will continue to have division. We will continue to have suffering on this planet so long as we continue to perpetuate this need for others to validate us, because we will do things that are out of accordance with who we truly are. Religion, very same thing, right? There's a quote I recently read, powerful quote, and it said, morality is doing what is right no matter what anybody thinks, and religion is doing what everybody thinks no matter what is right. Powerful. And that's the way we live when we're living for other people's approval, other people's acceptance, when we're living for a cultural narrative as opposed to living from a true, authentic place of personal power. That being said, quick plug of my first published book, Doing Me Guilt Free, Breaking Free from People Pleasing and Unleashing Your True Personal Power. This is your handy dandy guide through life on how to break those chains, because they are chains, it's shackles, break the chains of the need of external validation, and to live a life where you are truly unapologetically you, regardless and in spite of how you may be perceived. You may be a black kid from the inner city and you're into punk rock. Be that. Be that. Be what you are. Self-define as opposed to being defined by a culture that wants nothing for you. Period. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Till the next time, namaste, namaskar.